What's going on YouTube, man? Today is Sunday, September something. Okay. Anyways, I want to get into an interesting article I came upon. It was about 10 ways of why sports stars go from riches to rags. And well, basically the sports stars we're talking about is NFL, baseball, or whatever, because we all know that these guys make a lot of money, and people always ask themselves the question, well, why is it that they don't have money, right, when they retire? Like, what happens to all this money? I know the reason why, because I know that lump sum money isn't power. Passive income is power. Not, hear what I'm saying again? Lump sum money in a bank account or where you have it is not power. Passive income is power. Okay? Now we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now let's look at what they said. The first thing of why you see a lot of stars who make a lot of money go broke is the behavior. You know, especially like in the NFL, you have a lot of players out there that get involved in, you know, a lot of strange activity like the strip clubs, you know, gambling, dog fighting. I mean, you have it. You know, if you're making money, if you're doing anything, you have to have an ethical behavior. You gotta have that. Because even if you're a politician or anybody, you know, a lot of people say, well, I can't run because all my skeletons will come out of the closet. And see, that was a sign of the millionaire next doors also. These people had excellent behavior. They spent a lot of quality family time. They were either religious, and I'm not saying that you have to be, you know, in a religion or anything like that, but you have to have great behavior. You can't have any negative vices around you or anything like that. All right. Now let's look at the next thing they talked about here. We got the behavior. Okay. Also now I'm looking into real estate. All right. Now here's a problem right here that is kind of bad because see, it says that these guys invest in too much real estate, meaning, like for instance, Shaquille O'Neal house. I don't know the exact cost of the house, but you know, when he was transferred to Phoenix, you know, he had problems selling this huge mega mansion in Miami, you know, and you ask yourself, well, he had a pretty large family, but guys, come on, if it's just you, your wife, and maybe 2 children, you don't need a mega mansion. See, because that was another thing that differed with the millionaire next door. These people lived in middle class neighborhoods, and they concentrated on paying their home off, because that's power. Power isn't have a mega mansion when you're making payments, mortgage payments that are enormous. I mean, look at Latrell Sprewell. That's a mouthful. Latrell Sprewell. This guy got to a point where he couldn't even make his mortgage. You know? So the big house is only a show for people, but it's not a sign of wealth. The next thing is these people got wrong advisors. These people were involved with people who, you know, were involved in Ponzi schemes. Like we know, my man Madoff, you know, he was involved in Ponzi schemes. No one really knew this, but I think a lot of times you have to do your research and find a advisor, run a check on them, or find an ethical advisor, because when you have money like this, you want somebody making sound decisions for you. All right, let's see what else they have on a list here. Wow. Okay. This is an interesting one. Too many children. Not to the point where they have too many children in their household, because they're large households. Some people have 4 kids, 6 kids, whatever. But these people have multiple children with multiple women. So we know that when it comes to child support or whatever you may have it, you're, I think it's evaluated with what you make. So when these guys make a lot of money, like for instance, Evander Holyfield, they gave him the situation. This guy would pay $500,000 a year in child support. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of wealth going in different directions, you know, but then that goes into behavior, into your behavior also. Okay, let's look at something else we have here. What else we have on the list? And here it goes with the other behavior also, is drugs. You know, there's a lot of people out there that think that in order to have a good time, you have to have a little drugs here, a little cocaine here, a little whatever here, you know. Stay away from it, you know, because one doesn't need it, you know. It's better to go ahead and just, you know, have some good, clean fun. We don't need these drugs involved or whatever. And we saw most of the time when people have drugs in their life, it kind of just leads in a bad situation. All right, so we got that. All right, let's look at the next one here. Try to run a business. Now, see, a lot of these guys think, oh, we got some money, and a guy come up with a bright idea, and he'll say, hey, I got this idea for a business. So the person with the money will go ahead and shoot money in that direction, and then what happens is that it turns into a bad business venture. Because if it was my money and I'm going to invest in something like that, best believe that every free moment I have, I'm going to be in there checking to make sure of its success. So a lot of people like to give money and shoot in directions and then forget about it. That's not how you run a business. A business, you have to be involved. You have to be hands-on. You have to know what's going on at all times. You know, if it's something that you need more, if you need more publicity or whatever you may need, you know, you need to be in there. So a lot of guys, these stars, would give that money out and then come to find out, you know, the business has failed, you know, and they've put like, you know, $1 million or $2 or a couple $100,000 in there, you know. So I mean, what's the guy? The MLB All-Star, Lenny Dykstr, Distra, whatever. He had a magazine called The Players Club, and from this magazine he failed miserably, and he had to sleep in his car because of it. Okay, so that's us. And see, guys, we can take lessons from this too. It's not just the stars that are doing this thing. We can definitely take lessons. And see, here's another one too. And this is something the Millionaires Next Door also did, because with their great ethical behavior and doing things with the family, they built strong families and strong wealth. A lot of guys in the sports industry or whatever you may have it, they get divorced. And even regular people too. People in ordinary lives, they get divorced. And then we know that, you know, when you get divorced, you're going to have to split half your assets or whatever you may have it. It's just a catastrophe. So why work all that time, you know, building and everything, and then all of a sudden it just gets destroyed? So you have to be careful in picking your mate. Make sure you pick the right mate, you know, and then once you pick the mate, then you plan to have a successful life and do things together and work every day to make that happen, you know. So let me see what else. Do they have anything else on the list here? So we see get divorced. Oh, well, of course, here we go again. Making bad investments. I kind of touched on that. That's another thing. Somebody, who is this? Records say, okay, who is this? I'm trying to think of somebody real quick here. Former quarterback Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer. 5 other NFL retirees invested at least $100,000 in a piece in a now defunct, which is a startup company called Pay by Touch, which pretty much failed, you know. And like I said, here we go again. You didn't really know much about the company, but you invested money and thought that, hey, I want to invest money in this and hopefully it just takes off running. Not the way to run a business, guys. Just because you got money doesn't make you just kind of like, oh, let me just sit to the side or whatever. So I think, guys, we get the gist of what's actually going on, you know. And this is why I said at the beginning, passive income is better than lump sum income. The reason why. Passive income is the example I gave with the Harley millionaire. This guy had a trailer park that was not like a low income trailer park. What he had is that for the people who are called snowbirds, who go to places when it's warm and it's cold in their area, he had places where they can put their RVs and rent. And, you know, he would get $200 a month, and he had 100 slots, $20,000 a month coming in. And also he put a swap meet in that area, and this one he had 300 slots, and he charged $200 a month for that. So this is money coming in. This is money working. But he built that. He put that together. He didn't just invest in someone else, you know. So just because you have a lot of money, or just because you don't have enough money, doesn't mean that money shouldn't be taken care of. Because some people, when they get this money, they think it's going to last forever. Never will it happen. You have to, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in my next videos. Passive income is the strongest thing you can have in your life. I'm telling you guys, it's the strongest thing. And that's one thing I can say I can agree with Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about the passive income. So I'm going to go ahead and let this video go. You know, I've talked a lot about it. So just let me hear your comments, whatever, you know, and let me see your thoughts. And until next time, signing off.